I earned Michelin star 2007, Michelin star 2008, and I tell Whitney, like, look, let's just go. I'll pick coconuts. I'll build roads. I don't need to cook. I don't need to. I don't need all this. So we did. We just dropped everything. We went to the U.S. Virgin Islands. I got a job in a kitchen. Of course, it just like follows me all over the world. But that was a week into it. I wasn't looking. We didn't make any plans whatsoever. We just took what was on our back, literally, and went. So that's where that was the catalyst. But I opened like 5 or 6 restaurants. Some of them they will go down in the history books of some of the best stuff that's been done down there. But it wasn't until Whitney and I decided to take a big personal loan. We designed and purchased and had built our first food truck business called Off the Grid. And to get to the point of what day one was like, day one was December 26th, 2011, and the truck burnt down. It burnt to the ground. The generator, it was a faulty generator. These guys were crooks, unfortunately. I ended up, I'm not as embarrassed anymore to like talk about it, but it's still extremely painful. I spent about $180,000 with criminals that if I had done more due diligence and I wasn't so like just passionate and blinded by like all the ideas I had, and these guys were like, yeah, no problem, just keep it coming. And all the while they were just, feeding on my, tenacity. So anyway, we're not going to go into that, but lo and behold, opening day, which this fire was at like 3 a.m. No, actually the sun was, when I finally got there, I'll never forget watching that sun coming up. We were at Sapphire Beach. Our spot was beautiful. I rented a parking lot that overlooked some of the most amazing vantage points in the Virgin Islands. Was where we were. Looked out at St. John. You could see Tortola in the background. It was just gorgeous. And I'm there, standing there. The fire department had just put out everything smoldering. I could see right through the truck into the ocean, and the sun was surreal. And that was day one. So that was I will never forget that day, obviously. And then and we were at that point we were officially broke because we had all in. We had the run. We got hosed by these guys anyway, so I kind of had to go down there. The stuff was built in Georgia, and I had to go get it, and almost in a fist fight conflict, and there was no time to like sue or do anything. I was off the grid already. The company was called Off the Grid, by the way, and so what we did. So that was December 26th, New Year's Day. We flew to Miami from St. Thomas. We flew to Miami with our American Express card. We hadn't used it yet, and we had no cash. Like our entire $180,000 loan was now all sitting in some other pieces of equipment, but we lost the truck. I built like 4 different things that all worked together. But anyway, we fly to Miami on New Year's Day. We had like 24 hours in Miami to just make something happen. Total audible, emergency situation. And we bought a tiny little pink food truck that was just junk for $5,000. But the generator in the front was worth like $5,000. So we bought the truck. I gutted the whole thing in Miami, and I traded all the shit that was inside for like $300 worth of restaurant supply stuff. And then bought some more. I think I spent like $8,000 there. I packed it all in the pink food truck. I drove the pink food truck on the fly to somebody who wrapped it. And then we shipped, Whitney and I drove, we met a Amish guy in Pennsylvania, and we rented a U-Haul and went and bought our first pit smoker. And no, it wasn't a pit smoker. It was a stick burner, they call it, which if it comes up, I'll explain what the huge difference is as far as how it controls your life. So we bought the smoker, we bought the food truck. Food truck's wrapped. We shipped it back to St. Thomas, and we opened our first barbecue food truck called Off the Grid, all you can eat barbecue for $10 in the Virgin Islands on Valentine's Day. And that was a huge hit, and we never looked back. We sold out every day. We opened a second one called Off the Grid 2, TOO, and that one was on the beach, Koki Beach, which is like one of the most eclectic, local, watch your ass, crazy. Like, imagine the craziest dive bar you've ever been to, but that's like the entire beach. And then we opened up number 3, which we called Tree, TREE, Off the Grid Tree. It was in Tillett Gardens, which was this super historic. It was an old pasture from like 1890, like plantation that had been converted in the 50s by a real amazing artist. Tillett was his name. And he ended up getting super famous in the Virgin Islands because he pioneered silk screening in the area. And what silk screening allowed him to do was he then used his art, created the silk screen, and then made like prints on shirts and on, so he kind of blew up in the 70s and 80s silk screening. And then he would create these maps of the Virgin Islands and St. Thomas and Tortola and all this shit. And there was like one of his piece of artwork in every hotel room in the Virgin Islands. So he like, boom. And they created this crazy little art community. He was kind of Salvador Dali-like, he lived in one house and he had like 3 girlfriends, and his wife lived in the other house and had like boyfriends. And then they had like, it was kind of like a hippie compound. And there was like, when I was there, when we started, the place sadly had been pretty run down. Mr. and Mrs. Tillett had passed away, and it was kind of shit. And then I just got lucky that when the estranged kind of cuckoo bird's son came back and was trying to revamp it, I just got lucky at the right place at the right time. I took kind of the anchor tenant spot, and the restaurant was big. It had a big freestanding bar, like an island bar, thatch roof, like looked like a little tiki hut, island style bar with like 40 seats around the bar. And then a restaurant that I built some pretty neat picnic tables, but the restaurant could seat like 80. But when we were busy, we'd have like 300 people all just standing around. I had a zip line where the bartenders would send the orders in from the bar into the kitchen. We drank our asses off every day. I mean, the place was off the chain that's where the live music was. I had a big music stage, and I basically I'm not afraid to admit it, I blew every dollar I earned at that place on live music.